Hi everyone, my name is Nessa and I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. If I were to ask you, do you remember exactly when and where your anxiety started? Would you be able to answer it? If yes, you're in luck because you have an upper hand to your problem. Because most people don't have a clue how it all came about and it got created. They don't remember when and where they first experienced it. And most people don't know how to deal with this emotion. But before I get into the details, I'd like for you to think for a moment about the last time you felt anxious or experienced a state of anxiety. Now, I'm not talking about being in a situation where you're being chased down the street by the neighbor's Rottweiler or in the middle of a forest face to face with a bear kind of anxious. I'm talking about a normal day with no life-threatening obstacles in your way. Were you at home, maybe sitting down somewhere, or outside, driving, in a gathering, and all of a sudden you felt that anxious feeling rise up? Maybe you experienced some shortness of breath, or heart beating, sweating, maybe shaking, or however you come to experience anxiety. Now think, did you at any point tell yourself, I think it's time for me to feel anxious and voluntarily shake and breathe heavily? I'm guessing not. The feeling just showed up out of the blue without you having any control over it. It got triggered for no known reason. Now this continues to happen more and more, and you end up seeing a doctor, go through a whole physical, find there's nothing medically or physically wrong with you, and you're diagnosed with GAD, general anxiety disorder. The first thought is, where did it come from, and how can I get rid of it? The problem is most people think anxiety disorder is a disease of the mind. But in fact, anxiety is only a symptom of something else that needs to be attended to. It could be something that could have happened in the past, or something you're worried may happen in the future, but you may not be consciously aware of what it is. In order to understand my point, it's critical that you have a basic understanding of the conscious and the unconscious mind first. In a previous video, I have explained in detail how these two work and how this is your mind's way of protecting you, keeping you safe from what it perceives to be dangerous for you, due to its wrong programming, due to what it has learned. But why does it seem to be working against you instead of for you? Anxiety by nature is a physical reaction to an emotion or emotions that is brought on or triggered as a consequence to an unfamiliar, uncomfortable, or unknown situation. It's what sends us back to our primitive fight-flight response. Now, anxiety is a necessary reaction, and without it, we would not recognize what is safe and what may harm us. For example, it's like riding a bike for the first time. If you're not anxious, you may not be cautious when riding down the street and not worry about losing your balance or falling or hitting the brakes at the right time. So being anxious to some degree will keep us safe from walking into the fire. But it's the amount of anxiety and the duration of it, or better said, the balance of anxiety necessary for the situation. Going back to the bike example, let's say you're so anxious that you might fall and you end up falling. Now this feeling becomes so extreme for some people that it prevents them from ever getting back on the bike and riding again. It becomes a known scary emotion, and subconsciously every time they think of riding a bike, the emotion kicks back in. We call that anxiety. This is anxiety towards a specific situation or event. Then there is general anxiety. This is when you feel anxious all the time, which means you're in fight-flight all the time. There are numerous reasons why this can happen. And believe it or not, your diet can play a major role in this situation. Low blood sugar, poor hydration, use of alcohol, caffeine can trigger these symptoms of anxiety. When your blood sugar drops, your body starts using your stored glucose and you become hypoglycemic, which is a very common reason why the fight-flight response gets activated and you become hypersuggestible, meaning everything around you can easily affect you, good or bad. There's no filter, no critical faculty. The anxious feeling you get is like an alarm that's set by your unconscious mind. And as soon as it feels a threat, it will go off. That's the way it has learned how to get your attention. Like I said, we all experience situations and life in general differently. So this also varies from person to person. We don't all experience anxiety the same way, nor do we deal with the symptoms in the same manner. Some people start procrastinating in order to avoid any uncomfortable situation. Some become obsessive with minor details of everyday life. Some people start being overly caring and giving to others in order to avoid themselves, and many other behavior patterns that stem from anxiety. Unfortunately, the mistake most people with anxiety make is looking for ways to eliminate, tackle, or my favorite, beat this evil. We're always looking for outside triggers as a cause of our anxiousness and trying to avoid them as much as we can. But what's been created on the inside also needs to be addressed and resolved on the inside as well. I'm going to give you a simple exercise that can help change your perspective of how you see your anxiety. Help open your mind of what and how it may look like. And perhaps it will answer some questions you may have. Like Einstein said, you can't solve a problem with the same kind of thinking pattern you had when you created it. Grab a piece of paper and a pen and start by writing down 3 things that you know of that trigger your anxiety. It can be maybe specific people who trigger your anxiety, places you may go to that trigger it, certain times of the day, whatever you're aware of that brings this up in you. List them. Now, underneath each one, I want you to write down how they make you feel. The emotion, the sensation, the thought that each one brings out in you. For example, when I go to a crowded place, my heart starts racing, or I get shortness of breath. When I'm in a gathering, I feel insecure, I feel nervous, I feel fearful or sad. Or whatever when I'm in the specific situation. Now, write down how you normally handle each of these situations when it arises, how you deal with them. Do you maybe avoid them, run away from them? Do you constantly overthink, overanalyze every situation? Do you procrastinate? However you come to face these issues when they come up, write it down. Now, when you're done, take a good look at what you wrote. The first step is always to acknowledge the problem and then break it down into smaller, more manageable pieces because they become easier to handle and less overwhelming. If you already know your anxiety triggers to some degree, you're better able to prepare yourself ahead of time by doing small exercises, such as taking deep breaths or putting yourself in a more calm or relaxed state before you face the triggers. Just talking to yourself and giving yourself some positive affirmations, anything that will help you get yourself in a calm state of mind beforehand. When you voluntarily and knowingly face a problem, it takes a lot of the edge off. The situation doesn't get better or less scary. What happens is you feel braver inside by taking a step. It makes you feel like you accomplished something rather than giving into a problem and feeling defeated each time. No matter how small of a step you took, because each time you're able to push yourself one step further. This is just a great start for people who are dealing with anxiety on a daily basis. Having a more clear perspective on your problem helps you deal with the situation in a more prepared manner. Now, how can hypnotherapy help with all this? There are many ways how hypnosis is effective for anxiety. If you watched my video on what hypnosis is, I have explained that one of its main effects is putting people in a relaxed and calm state. Hypnosis is used to relax the physical body and break the cycle of negative thinking and bring about lasting therapeutic change at an unconscious level. Meaning you don't just experience this great feeling while you're in session, you also get to take it home with you to keep. It's like rewiring and reprogramming your thought process from negative to positive. From living in fear and doubtfulness to living free and confident. I hope this video was helpful for those of you who are suffering from anxiety or know someone close to you who's gone through it, and you were able to get a better understanding of how to get yourself on a right track for a healthier future and towards a path that you want to walk on with joy instead of fear. If you have any questions or need more information or think of how I can help you, you can reach me by email or through my website that you see down here. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to get updates on new videos that I post weekly. I'd like to end this video with a quote from Sigmund Freud. The conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun and falling back into the great subterranean pool of the unconscious, from which it rises. Thank you for watching.